It's good to see you today. Hope you're doing well. Today is July 13th. Our reading today comes from the book of Psalms, several of the Psalms down in the description. We're going to be looking primarily in Psalm 126. A song of ascents. When the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those in a dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. And then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. Bring back our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. Those last two verses are probably the most commonly known of this psalm. And I was just thinking about the idea of do not quit. That we have to continue to do what is right, what is good. We have to continue to do what verse 5 says, those who sow in tears. That we cannot give up. The passage this reminds me of is in Galatians. And it's the passage where it speaks about, it says, do not grow weary in well-doing and doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. It's using the same figure, and I think it's the same message. So as we think about the psalm, and we think about sowing, and we ask, well, when should we sow? And the answer is found there in verse 6. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing. So that answers the when. It's continually. Be ready in season, out of season. If today is the day of salvation, then it is always the right time. He who continually goes forth. Well, where? We're speaking about the captivity. And as those Jews came back from captivity, when Cyrus signs the proclamation, if the spirituality that they had when they came back, those seeds had been sown in the captivity. Think Daniel, that idea. So even in the captivity, we're supposed to, it would be so easy going off to captivity to say, you know what, God's giving up on us, so we're giving up on God, and just throw your hands up and just say, I'm done with it. I'm done with being faithful to God. I'll turn to one of these pagan gods, because what has God done for me? It would be so easy to say that. But the faithful did not. The faithful realized, no, we still need to be doing good. We need to be sowing, even as we think about the when. Even in captivity? Yes. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing. Well, why? And the why is found in verse 6, in that word doubtless. It's because God's promises are sure. Do not be deceived. Whatever a man sows, that he shall also reap. And if we do good, then we will reap in joy. God's promises are sure. But the part of this verse that sometimes is lost upon people are the tears. And that being faithful is not always easy. Read the Psalms if you haven't. The ones just down in the description are sufficient for this point. It has amazed me in looking at the Psalms and contrasting them with our hymns for today. Hymns today that people have written, that there's a noticeable difference in a lot of them. Namely, and all you have to do, and let me just look at the previous psalm, and just think about if we sang this today, what would people say? Verse 4, do good, O Lord, to those who are good, and to those who are upright in their heart. As for such as turn aside to their crooked ways, the Lord shall lead them away with the workers of iniquity. Peace be upon Israel. Verse 3, for the scepter of wickedness shall not rest on the land allotted to the righteous. Just think about that sort of those sort of the Psalms, and just think about would people be comfortable singing those today, or would they be deemed that's too hard, that's too harsh, that's that's discouraging. And I'm not saying they are too hard or too harsh or discouraging. I'm saying that life is not roses and rainbows. I'm saying that to look back at our psalm, that those who reap in joy, as it says, those are the ones who continually go forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing. When Jesus, talking to the disciples, said, "My peace I leave with you, but it's not like the world leaves it." When the Lord was talking to the disciples and he said, "The world hates you because it first hated me." When the Lord talks to the disciples, when the Lord's speaking and he says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light," he's not saying that our life will be all roses and rainbows. That's not what he's saying. And that as we go out sowing, we go out sowing in, as it says, he who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing. But if we'll do that, because life is not easy, the life of a Christian is not always easy. And bearing, as we think about the harvest takes time, the early and the latter rains as it is. And it is hard. But what the psalm is about is you don't give up. Even in captivity, you don't give up. Even when others drag you across the coals, you don't give up. That's one of the previous psalms. And that you continue to do what's right, and you continue to sow the seed. Because if you do that, then doubtless what will happen is you'll get the harvest. You'll get the harvest. So appreciate you. Hope this brief study has been helpful for you. As we consider the Psalms, just so many, obviously, so many applicable passages. So thanks for following along with us. Hope you have a good day. Hope you join us for the next brief look into God's Word.